Hi everyone, welcome to day 40 of Adorned with Dignity. Can you believe it? We're on day 40. Really, thank you, Hashem, for such a zechus to have taught these 40 days. I pray that you would continue to give me the zechus to go on. Today we're talking about more rationalizations. And by this point, we've kind of had a good foundation about the things that surround this topic. And one of them being, some of the history. And we've kind of dabbled not only from Kisurosh, but in tznuis as well. And it's been a great foundation to kind of see and give you the facts behind, the whole issue of how the shaitel came to be. And of course, there are more and more that we can go on. But we're on day 40, and today we're talking about, those excuses and the hetters that we try to give to ourselves. And sometimes it's not always deliberate. Sometimes it's just literally because we just don't know. And today it says, I want to make a Kiddush Hashem with my glorious shaitel. Now, we spoke about this in previous chapters. And, my opinion is that for me, at least, the way I view it is that the fact that a young Kala puts on a shaitel, or even an older woman, they put on a shaitel, I don't think that it's always something. I think that they truly are trying to get closer to Hashem. And the reason why I say that is because for the first part, I think that to have a long shaitel it's an exorbitant expense, right? And then if a person's going to buy it and they're going in and they're saying, I want the best shaitel that you have, I think that even though it's a misguided desire, I think it's no different than the desire. Like when I said to the Rav, give me, I want to buy tefillin for my husband as a gift when we got married, give me the best that you have. I think that there, in some way, it's coming from the same place, the same desire to want to serve Hashem. Unfortunately, it misses the mark because it's not really what's in line with Hashem's will. So it states that some women assume that by wearing an attractive shaitel, they are projecting an image of beauty, and they are thereby making a Kiddush Hashem. This cannot be further from the truth. A Kiddush Hashem is only engendered when we fulfill the will of Hashem. Indeed, when we want to look presentable outdoors, we have to ask ourselves a very profound question. What is beautiful in the eyes of Hashem? And we know the Midrash teaches that there is nothing more beautiful than tznuis. So it says, indeed, we must fulfill Hashem's will without knowing the reason or benefit. Yet, in truth, we are aware that all the mitzvos Hashem bestowed upon us are ultimately for our well-being. We trust that they will help us achieve our mission in life and thus bring us true joy. So if you're somebody who's having a conflict with just taking Hashem's word for it, put yourself, especially if you're a parent. Now, if you're not a parent, then you don't see this perspective. And sometimes, I hate to sound like my mother right now, but I'm going to sound exactly like her. And I'm going to say, you'll know when you have your own children. And it's true, as much as I hate to agree with her on that, because, I always felt so justified in my decision and my point of view. But when I became a parent, I realized that, there are things that I said that I didn't feel that I needed or wanted to have to explain at that time, because I didn't think that by me explaining it, that it would change their mind, only to know that I know unequivocally what the outcome will be. So I'm telling you, don't do it. And parents do this all the time. And when and if the child becomes at a place where they can accept the explanation, then you give it to them. And this kind of happens a lot with, we have to take the same mindset that Hashem is our parent, and first of all, he designed everything, right? Let's put that in perspective. 2, he's causing everything, right? So if he's telling you not to do something, it's for a reason. It's because he knows something that you don't know. Now, I'm one of those people that it's very hard for me to keep a secret about a present, or it's very hard to get like a surprise party over on me. I will find out. I will search out and destroy everyone until I find out all the secrets behind it. But vice versa, like if I buy you a gift, I can't hold on to it. Like I have to buy you a gift like the night before, like your birthday party or something, because I will spoil it and I will give you the gift. So this has been something that I noticed Hashem has been pointing out to me, that patience for his plan is not always, in line with what I want. But, lately I've been kind of really letting go of the reins because I really realize if you leave me in control, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to be calling Hashem back and saying, I messed up. So as he's been running my life quite well, I'm going to continue to let him do that, but with his help, because this is something that, you can't, first of all, you can't change anything unless you acknowledge it, right? But until you acknowledge it, it just becomes like you're oblivious. But just because you've acknowledged it as well doesn't mean you know how to fix it. And Hashem is working with me on a lot of things, as I'm sure he is with everyone. So the Torah teaches that the exposing of the hair of a married woman is the greatest embarrassment for her. Then the polar opposite, it must be that, nothing is more beautiful than tznuis. And then we trust the Torah wholeheartedly. So we understand that a sheitel looks exactly like one's own hair and attracts attention from other men. It's far from beautiful. And we believe the more modest the head covering, the more beautiful it is. In truth, when a woman wears a very natural-looking sheitel, she creates a chilul Hashem, since she is defeating the purpose of the mitzvah. She is actually perplexed non-religious Jews and Gentiles. On a positive note, when women wear a modest head covering with pride, she projects a refined, noble, dignified image. Indeed, such a woman wins the admiration of others and inspires them to strive to emulate her. So I'm going to go in a little deeper than this. I'm kind of going to pull from the series I did Behind the Curtain. And we're talking about the reason why a woman has to be tznuis, not why she wants to be tznuis. And the biggest reason is, when we talk about the fact that she was pulled from a rib, that she was taken from a rib, ribs are concealed by their nature, but more than that, they protect. Hence the secret of tznuis, that in this, she protects all that is sacred in Yiddishkeit. And we know that without the women, Klal Yisrael could not have even come to this point that it's in. But even more than that, the Gemara teaches that the woman is the pipeline of the blessing, but she is only the pipeline and the vessel to hold the blessing if a prerequisite has been met, the prerequisite being the concealment. And we see this also in the building of the Mishkan, when you see the curtains being the first thing. And the curtains, and you can go in again to the series, I'm not going to bring it up in here, but the curtains having that feminine aspect into it, being the receiver. And what is it that the whole Mishkan was looking to receive? And that was the presence of Hashem. So when we are opposite of that, Hashem, we has v'shalom, we send him away, we send away the Shekhinah, because Hashem has said, I'm not going to look upon anything that's unholy. So in essence, when we're walking around not modest, we are really setting up all of Klal Yisrael to be attacked. It's almost as if our defenses are down, and all the davening in the world, although it is good, without tznuis in place, it's like it's going into a big vessel with a hole in it. That's the amass. That's the bottom line. So oftentimes you see Rabbeinu, something is happening in a town and women want to get together and they want to do challah, they want to light candles, they want to do this, they want to do that. And the Rabbeinu are screaming, pick up the tznuis, because they know that you can do all of these things and all of these things are great. And that's not to minimize any mitzvah, has v'shalom, but you can do all these things. Your husband can be studying all day at the yeshiva. If you are not modest, it's like you have a vessel that's lacking and it cannot properly hold the bracha that's coming down. So very important thing. So now we're closing up and it says, if so many people are doing it, how can it be wrong? It says many people become very offended when they are told that their head covering is problematic. They justify themselves with a common excuse. How can it be problematic if so many people wear it? And actually, I've heard this next one. It says, you mean to say that so many people are going against halakha? Yes, we mean to say so many people are going against halakha, And it goes on. It says, when it comes to halakha, it is the will of Hashem that a person should honestly analyze the issue. And he should not rely on the fact that everyone is doing it or on the fact that this great person is behaving this way. And it is not the way of the Torah to rely on what others are saying. What others are doing. And it says, see Orach Chaim, Siman 9. So sometimes that is the issue. Sometimes, people get greatly offended because they almost feel that they're being singled out in your telling them that there's an issue. And of course, here comes, this is where the Yetzirah loves, he loves this kind of discourse, because, even though the person who's probably saying it is probably saying it a little too zealously, it is coming from a good place, right? Second, the person who's receiving it, they're receiving it in defensiveness. That doesn't mean that they don't want to do what's right by Hashem. But, again, the Yetzirah, he does kind of kick up this very egoistic reaction from us. And it's something that happens quite often. But even in this, don't lose hope, because Hashem can take this situation, he can turn it for the good. Because oftentimes this situation will cause a person to be so irritated and annoyed that most times what they try to do is they try to go back and find all the sources why you're wrong, and then they find out that in the end you were right, and then they begin to change because little by little, even though they don't take it on overnight, they do. It eats at them. It eats at them. But this is true with everything. This just doesn't apply to Kisurosh. This is true with everything, and this is why sometimes we have to take a step back. If something is gyrating our neshama and our goof, and they're not, and you're having a reaction, first I think the thing is to notice that you've had a reaction. And we talked about this very early on in the series about getting to know that reaction, because if you notice it, it helps you to take a step back and analyze what just happened. And it also slows down your response time so that you're not going back and attacking as well. And you can, once you've survived the initial shock, like, oh my gosh, we're having this conversation, we're really going to have this conversation. And again, then you take back and you kind of analyze. And not every time. I don't want to say that every time that somebody brings something to you and you go investigate it, they were right. It could turn out that you were right? But the good thing is that you still investigated it. And now either you're holding on a stronger position than ever before, which I've had that happen to me, or you find out that you did err and then you have a way to correct it. And again, this happens to everyone. And, I think that the key and the goal is to be able to take a step back and to look and think at things very rationally, very calmly. Now, again, we're from Spain, so good luck with that. That's been my biggest tafkid in life, okay? Taking a step back and not being so hot-blooded it was one of my challenges. It's still one of my challenges. So just know Shem's with you on every step of this journey. But the fastest way to get to the goal is just to be straight with yourself. Walk straightly with your God. Walk straight with yourself. And that's it for today. And I hope we'll all be together again soon. Besrat Hashem.